Okay, so what we're going to talk about now are the veins of the upper extremity, and this gets pretty complicated, and that's why I have the picture in here. We're also going to draw these. So if we look, if you remember in the when we're talking about the arteries, we had the digitalis arteries, which basically supplied blood to the fingers. Well, now we got to drain that blood, so we do that through the digital veins. And then if you remember, we had the palmar arch in the when we're looking at the arteries. Now we have the palmar venous arches, right? And if you notice, one is a darker color than the other. The reason being is the one that's lighter is going to be the one that's more superficial, the one that's closer to the surface when your palm is up. If I turn my palm upside down and I'm looking at the bottom of my arm, that's where these darker ones will be, these darker veins right here. Okay, so if we look, we have the palmar arches, and the palmar arches are going to come and they're going to make what we call the basilic vein. If you look at the basilic vein runs all the way up the inside of the forearm and keeps going up. If you notice right here, it still says basilic. It goes all the way up until we get to the axillary vein. It actually becomes the axillary vein. On the opposite side, we have the cephalic. We have the cephalic vein. So this is on the thumb side, right? The lateral side. So if we watch this, it's also going to come up. You notice it's a light blue, so that tells me it's more anterior than the dark ones, right? It's going to come up. It's going to bifurcate or split into two, and it's going to make the median cubital vein. That's right here. If you remember, the front of the elbow is called cubital. So it cuts over and joins the basilic vein. So my cephalic vein comes up and cuts over or bifurcates and then joins the basilic vein. And then those go on, like we said, to become the axillary vein. But if you notice also with the cephalic vein, it continues up this way, like this, and it's still the cephalic vein. You see it says right here, cephalic. So I have cephalic down here and cephalic down there. So it still remains, even though part of it goes over to the basilic, it still remains the cephalic vein, and then it comes up and it also drains into the axillary vein right here. You can see that right there. Okay, so now the next thing is, if we look at the deep veins, that's going to be the darker ones. We had an ulnar artery. Now we have an ulnar vein. It's going to come up like this. We had a radial artery. Now we have a radial vein. That's going to be like this. So these are basically draining the top of the hand. The dark palmar venous arches would be the top of the hand. And these are going to come up. And if you notice, they come together and they form the brachial vein. So my ulnar vein and my radial vein come together to form the brachial vein. Okay, and then as you see here, the brachial vein is then also going to drain into the axillary vein. Okay, and that's basically it for our veins. So again, the light ones are going to be superficial or more anterior. The dark ones are going to be deep, like it says, if you look right here, superficial and deep.